So here's the situation. Lately my lady has fancied herself to be a bit of a gamer, but the problem is her desk is made out of toothpicks and thumbtacks, so I say it's about time we fix that. Good boyfriend alert, I'm just gonna give her my desk and the shirt off my back, but that'll leave me deskless. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna make myself a desk, and I'm gonna pretend like I'm doing something nice for her. You get it, you understand. So let me take you back to where it all began, because over the last couple months I've committed some war crimes on this desk using some techniques I seldom see here on the internet. But look, at the time I'm recording this clip right now, I'm not quite done with the desk, but this is some of the prettiest wood I've gotten the chance to work with, and right now I kind of hate my desk anyway, so how much worse could this new one be? I got what's in this box as a screaming deal. Some folks might call it cheating what's in this box. But oh. It's a desk. It's like most of it. It's like the hard part of a desk. I know it seems like I probably blew my load a little too quick on this video building the legs in under 10 seconds, but the reality is that's just step one. I bought this desk at IKEA not knowing how I was going to build the top. I mean, I knew what wood I was going to use, but in terms of a design, I went there without a tape measure or anything. So after I put the legs together last night, I came back down with a tape measure to get all my measurements of the angles and the sides so I could make this diagram. And from here, I could use this diagram to make these 3 to scale drawings of what I thought the top could look like. Ultimately, I decided to edit everything up in Fusion. I have a definitely not pirated version of that. And I came up with 3 designs. One of them looks like baloney, truly. And the other one is okay. It really follows the contour of how the actual frame of the desk looks. But ultimately, the one I decided to not even bother coloring in is the one that I like the most. I feel like the curves really complement or contrast the sort of angular nature of the frame itself. And obviously, this is sort of subject to change. This is just a drawing. I don't even know if I'm necessarily going to use these exact dimensions to make any sort of template, but it does let me know how I can slice up my cherry and my maple so that I can actually start the milling process so I can make this top. Huh. Ooh, I keep this puppy up here for special occasions. This is a planer sled. It is a 6-foot long piece of MDF, and I use this to effectively make a little flat reference surface when I need to flatten boards that are wider than my 6-inch jointer can handle. Here's the way this is going to work. I've got this piece of MDF. MDF from the factory is machined to be perfectly flat. I can then set my board on top of it, and with the help of some hot glue and some shims, I can make sure that this piece of wood is going to be perfectly rock solid as I send it through the planer. Now, a lot of you might be asking, how come I can't just send it straight through the planer? Well, the problem is if you send a banana through the planer, you're just going to get a thinner banana. But what you can do if you've got this flat MDF, you surface one side, this top side, to be perfectly parallel to this MDF that's on the bottom that you know is flat. Then you can take your board off of the planer sled and surface the other side to be perfectly parallel to this now perfectly flat top that you just made. Alright, I'm about to finish up for the evening and go hang out with the missus, but I wanted to bring you in to highlight one thing I'm doing. I just planed off roughly a 1/4 inch worth of lumber from all of these So now fresh wood has come to the surface that may want to equalize its moisture content. So I'm making sure that all of these freshly milled pieces, I'm allowing them to have access to the air on all four sides. They don't need a ton of air, but they just need to be able to reach the air. So I'm getting them off the table. They're on some sawhorses now. I don't know how necessary this is if I only took off a 1/4 inch. If you take off much more, you definitely need to do it. The theory is if I were to keep this flat on the table, what would happen is the bottom cannot have moisture evaporate from its surface. So it might want to retain moisture and the top might want to lose moisture, so it'll banana up away from the table. That's the theory anyways. I've never tested it. I don't have any reason to doubt it. So that's why I'm doing the stacking and the stickering. So it's been a couple days since the last time you and I have spoke, and these boards have been sitting here all on their lonesome this whole time. Roughly 48 hours has passed since I did the flattening of these, and sometimes after doing the initial flattening, you have to do another flattening again if you have to take off a lot of material on your first flattening. That appears to not be the case, and these boards have not really twisted too far away from flat, and I'm happy with them. So ultimately what that means is I can begin ripping off the rough edges down here. And, well, we can start prepping these for a big old glue up. You know, life has a funny way of working itself out sometimes. If you'll remember, my desk is going to look something like this. And I've decided the best way to make a shape like that without wasting too much wood is to glue up 2 panels instead of 1. One larger panel that we'll call this, and one smaller panel that we'll call that. And it just so happens that I did the math. My first panel needs to be a depth of 27.5 inches by 5 feet wide. The width of these 3 wide boards is 28 inches. My smaller panel needs to be a width of 22 inches and a depth of 13. Boy, I'll tell you, if I cut this smaller piece of cherry right in half, you know what I get? I'm gonna get a panel that is 24 inches wide and 13 inches deep. That is just serendipitous. I didn't plan that when I bought the lumber. I didn't have the desk legs yet when I bought the lumber, so how could I have planned? Man, life is just something, huh? Well, let's get started. So here's how this is gonna work. I'm first gonna find the center line of one of my boards. Then I'm gonna set my dowel pin jig to be that width. Then I'll drill some dowel holes that roughly encounter just over half of the length of a dowel pin. Then I can put in my little dowel pin pokers, line it up with the board to which I wanna put in the dowel pins, and hit it with a hammer. I'm gonna do that a whole bunch until I got all the dowel pins I need. I would call that a gap. That's the word, yeah. That should not be there, but it is, and I don't know why. All right, meanwhile on the other side, right where I don't have any dowels, I've got a little 1/8-inch lip here where it seems the wood doesn't want to be friends with each other, but I think, so this side I'm not too crazy worried about. That can be fixed. Our friend down there, that gap, that's a mystery. Look at that. I think it worked. That was worth the effort, I think, actually. It's been a little bit since we've done this. a prostate exam. I'm sure you've heard it a million times. Dowels, dominoes, biscuits, none of these things are used to add any strength to the glue up. Think about this battle. Who do you think's gonna win? Decades of chemical research on modern plastics, or 3/8 of an inch of pine. I gotta get these dowels together before they swell up too big and don't want to come together. I've tainted my prostate exam. I am starting to hate this glue up. These parallel clamps are supposed to put parallel clamping pressure, but they don't always. Sometimes if you clamp down a little too tight, you get some bowing. But if you put one upside down, it should help to bow in the opposite direction. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Oh, it's working. It works right there. You and I have a dinner date this evening. On the menu, more glue. I got a second glue up to do. Remember, I got to make 2 rectangles. But I'm all out of space and I'm pretty low on clamps. So I'll see you this evening. Hey, hi. Hi. Melissa? Yeah, I'm here for our date. I just wanted to introduce myself. I figured we could glue this wood together. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Hold on, it's my dad. I gotta take this. Hey, Pops, how's it hanging? Yeah, sorry, no, I don't want to talk about Iran. Yeah, no, I don't want to talk about Israel either. Yeah. Oh, they're making a new young Sheldon, huh? Younger Sheldon. Nope, I've never seen a Jeff Dunham comedy special. Nope, I don't want to watch a Jeff Dunham comedy special. Well, yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah, I'll tell him. All right, yep. All right, bye. Hey, sorry. Yeah, that was my dad, yeah. Yeah, no, we're good. He just wanted me to let you know to, like, subscribe and stuff, and like, oh, okay. Okay. So unlike my last glue up, I'm not going to put dowel rods in between this, these 2 pieces of this panel for 2 reasons. A, I don't really need to. These pieces are small enough and manageable enough that it's not worth my time to put them in there because they line up pretty well on their own. And the parts where they don't, well, that's what I got muscles for. The other reason is, let's pretend that I put dowels here, here, and here. Well, right now, I don't know exactly what my final desk is gonna look like, but remember, this is a piece of the panel that will sort of be cut like this. And here's the problem, because I don't know exactly how my desk will be cut in the end, there's a potential that I could expose some dowels as I cut out this desk, and I really want to avoid doing that. That would be a much bigger fish to fry than my pot can handle. I'm going in raw today, boys. I don't feel like doing a prostate exam. I just want to go in skin to skin. Now I know this is a beautiful little bead of glue squeeze out. It's actually very flat. I'm gonna let that sit until it dries a little bit, at least enough to handle, and then we'll come back and we'll turn my 2 panels into 1 panel. Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh! I don't remember. Did I want this side to be the back? Let me try the other side. Oh, god damn it. I do like it a little more. I gotta flip it around. Oh! Oh! So could somebody explain to me why I flipped the table around instead of flipping the clamps around? Could you guys move? You're in the way. Okay. Kind of a big mistake only putting one clamp under there. Whoa, a lot of dust on that. Hey, that's pretty flat, huh? Look at that. I don't mean to smoke my own crack, but I'm feeling pretty good about this thing. You guys want to see a magic trick? Watch this. Wow, how'd that happen? Jeez, that's great. Ta-da! The desk is done. Well, I mean, that's kind of like a stretch. The desk is in pieces. I'm done adding wood to this. Now it's time to remove some wood. The first thing I want to do, I need to just clean up these glue seams. These are somewhat of what you might call a disaster. I did my best to try and clean up the squeeze out while the glue was still a little tacky, but you know, one thing led to another. That didn't happen. So, you know, do as I say, not as I do. This is gonna take way too long. What I'm doing might seem like I'm doing it a little out of order, but I need to mount this desk, at least temporarily, to the base. And I need to do that because, well, I haven't drawn out the rest of the shape of the desk. And I feel like for me it would be helpful if I can do that when it's on top of the base. I get the proportions a little better like that. I get the dimensions a little better that way. That's my 2 cents. Probably not strictly necessary, but what I made here are 2 blocks. This one is 1 inch thick. This one's 1/4 inch thick. I made these specific for this project. I know I want the back of my desk to have a 1 inch overhang and each of the sides to have 1 1/4 inch overhang. But I can use these as pretty much feeler gauges to make sure I've got everything lined up. Then I can take my green pencil and draw a little marks where I put my threaded inserts. I'll draw out those holes once I get these marked up. Oh, Jesus H. Christ. Well, good enough for government work, as they say. Hopefully I drilled that in the right spot because I can't get it out. Oh no, the screws I bought are not long enough. Oh no, I gotta go to the store. Oh! Well, looks like the rest of the evening is gonna be between you, me, and this index card. I don't have a printer, so I had to pay a guy on Fiverr to draw this for me. Now what this is a diagram of all the curves and their dimensions that I need to take my diagram from this index card to this desk. I'm gonna draw that out right now. I've got a compass and a pencil and a tape measure and some hope. And that's how we're gonna spend this evening, you and I. All right, so this maybe doesn't make a ton of sense to you, but I think I remember what all this means. 1/16 away. All right, that's something. That is something. Let's just start with that, honestly. I mean, it's probably close enough. Yeah, so what, I didn't measure anything. I just kind of drew that line. Kind of looks right to me. If it's wrong, oh well. All right, this just in. It's been 5 seconds, and it's wrong. I'll tell you how I know it's wrong. This line extends over the frame of the disc. If I extend my line down, over the frame of the desk. So that's what we call in the biz not good. I can already tell it's going to take too long. I'm going to put in a brand new blade. Breaking news, I don't have any more blades. I honestly think it looks really cool. Hopefully you guys see the potential here. There's still some rounding cuts I gotta make. I don't know if that one was an improvement, but I guess it could have been worse. Look what I got my mitts on. Little radius jig, made it myself. 3D printer, that's right. I get bitches like that. Buddy, why are you so upset? I'll come back and do the rest later. Oh, gosh. Damn it. I'm gonna have to find a way to fix that. So I just finished up doing the initial shaping of this desk, and unfortunately I'm very happy with it. I say unfortunate because it's not a very interesting YouTube video if everything is going well. And it may seem like we're on the home stretch, but there's plenty of opportunity for things to be messed up right at the finish line. I have some cracks that need to be addressed. The initial round of sanding I did on this top with the belt sander, or at least tried to, left some scratches that I still need to sand out. And contrary to popular belief, desks have two sides, so the top looks very nice right now, but the bottom, I haven't even scraped the glue off. I do technically, in theory, need to do that. And I've got one more trick up my sleeve to make this desk a little more interesting. I don't know if I should reveal that yet, but I'm both nervous and I'm looking forward to my little trick. It's a little, shall we say, chemical warfare. But for the time being, me, my sander, and Chris Hansen's podcast have a little date with the underside of this table. Ugh, disgusting. Oh, immediately messed that up. Mother chunker, dude. That hurts like a butt cheek on a stick. What the fart? This makes me want to kill my grandma. Well, I feel like hanging myself. You just watched me put the rest of the threaded inserts in here on the bottom of this desk, and evidently when I went to drill the holes to do that, I drilled all the way through the top. I guess the depth adjustment on that Miles Craft little drill press guide slipped, which is something I knew that it could do, and I just didn't notice, and I just drilled holes straight through the top. I can fix it, kind of, but I've never been good at color matching wood. Luckily, none of the holes are on this seam, so that helps the patching job a little bit. But for the time being, though, I'm gonna just worry about this crack up here that I knew was there. Initially, I planned on getting a little fancy and freaky and putting a bow tie in there. I've never done a bow tie before, and I think they look cool, but now I'm so demoralized, I'm just gonna fill it with epoxy and just live my life that way. I stuck my own finger in my ass on this one. Really screwed the, in this scenario, I'm the pooch, and I screwed the pooch. So, let's fix this crack. Okay, now I suppose I gotta let that sort of sit there. That little dookie log. Let me try my hand at fixing this. I really would prefer to go to bed right now, spend time with my Pookie, but I want to be efficient. I've never fixed a hole quite like this. Luckily, for all of the cherry, I still have the exact boards that these came out of. Look at that. If I try and get some that's roughly the same sort of grain, some of these should go away, I think. I got these plug cutter bits from Harbor Freight. You can tell by the way that they came broken right out of the package, but for $4.99 for something I don't anticipate using too much, I think I'll be okay. Where the hell did that go? That just turned into dust. I want to try and get all sorts of different areas of, ow, god damn, that's hot. Whoa! I hope that doesn't mess anything up. What happens if you mix mineral spirits and epoxy? I don't know, I've never tried that, but something I don't like is happening. Okay, well this is, why would I do this? I don't have to do it, but I gotta drill this one a little bigger. Okay, well, I think that's the best I can do. Took longer than I wanted, but sometimes that's the way life is. Now, in somewhat of an unexpected turn of events, there's a crack here and a separate crack that's not connected down here. We filled the top with epoxy, and I just made the expectation that, oh, they must be attached. Evidently, the bottom's not attached. Ladies and gentlemen, I am nervous, and let me tell you why I'm nervous. I just spent the better part of at least a day sanding the underside of this desk up to 180 grit. Now, I didn't film that, but you can imagine it would look like this. Now, why am I nervous, you ask? Let me tell you. I want to chemically age the cherry in this desk, and when you chemically age cherry, which I've done before on some other projects, you get this beautiful deep red color. But I want to age the cherry, but keep this maple stripe in the center young and supple. The way that you chemically age wood is with lye. Now, lye is a dangerous chemical, but you can get it relatively easy at the hardware store. It comes in these little bottles that look like rhino horn dick pills, but it's not, it's lye. Now, you can take lye crystals and dissolve it in water, and that concoction will react with the tannins here in wood and age it as though it's been sitting out in the sun for 30 years. But here's the problem. You have to mix the lye crystals in water, and you may or may not know this. This might be too technical, but water is as thick as water. It wants to spread everywhere. And that's a problem because I want to keep this border as crisp as I can get. If the water wants to spread out, that's really hard to do. But what if water was thicker than water? I came up with this idea on my own. I have not seen anyone else do this because I don't think anyone else is having this same problem. But what if instead of using regular water out of the sink, I first dissolve in some cornstarch to thicken it? There's some huge pros to this. First of all, now that it's thick, it actually ages this cherry more evenly. It kind of functions like a gel stain would if you've ever used gel stains before. The other more important benefit is now the solution is too thick to penetrate through tape. And it's also too thick to go into the wood and spread out. It just can't do that through the wood fibers. Now I can mask off this maple and use my lye gravy to age this cherry without worrying about, oh, is this line gonna stay crisp? Are they sneaking under the border? It's not gonna happen. Other thing worth noting, now that I'm using this cornstarch, this desk is not 0 calories anymore. It is still vegan. I did try doing this with gelatin. It seemed like the lye and the gelatin sort of reacted though, and the gravy didn't get thick, so I had to use cornstarch. So it is still vegan, so that's good if you care about that. It is still, it will have calories in it though. So just be mindful of that if you want to do this at home. Also, it'll kill you. You don't want to eat lye, but you'll die a little fatter. Alright, I always think that this reaction is really cool because it happens so fast. So I'm going to see if I can get a decent shot of it. Yeah, it's turned already from cherry into like an oak color. Man, this stuff is awesome. Now, it's not a deal breaker. This wood aged so much more dark than this wood. So this side and this side are from the same piece of wood. Over here is a whole different plank of wood. That seems to have had more tannins in it that aged more dark. And I don't mind it, actually. But it is interesting. I did not anticipate that. This is the moment of truth. How did we do? Let's take the tape off. I'm ready to either bust a nut or hang myself. Type in the chat what you think I should do. Ooh. I think I'm gonna bust a nut. The answer's bust a nut. That looks so good. I'm so impressed with myself. I'll be honest, this is the best I've ever done with something like this. Maybe I'm feeling a little too overconfident about this, but I'm ready to do the top now. What the fuck is this? What the hell? What the hell? I came down to the shop today feeling pretty excited. I thought that I could just flip this puppy over, put on the monkey tape or whatever it is, just stain the top or age the top and be done. But evidently, my shit's all busted. I don't know what happened. There's a deep scratch in it right up here. There's all sorts of different staining on it. The staining I worry less about, but this deep scratch. What the hell is that from? Here I go. I'm gonna do it. Yep. Any minute now. Yep, here I come. I'm doing it. I swear I'm gonna do it. Oh, I did it. If you're gonna do this at home, one thing you should keep in mind is that it kind of smells like the inside of a cat's mouth. This looks pretty good. I mean, the reaction is still going on. And over time, the color is going to continue to even out. So right now, there might be parts where it looks blotchy, but over time, it'll even out, and when this dries, I think it's going to look pretty good. Okay, it's been about an hour. I went on a walk with Pookie, and most of the gravy is sort of dried up on its own, but there's still a few streaks left. We'll clean that up, and we could take the tape off and start thinking about finishing this thing. All right, that kind of kicks butt, if you ask me. Sorry for the coarse language. It's not particularly sexy, but I'm gonna finish this with polyurethane. I don't love it as a table finish because it can chip and it's annoying if I ever have to repair it. But I need a film finish because this lye process kind of doesn't make the wood feel that great. Ooh, a little bit of drippage. I'll clean it up real quick. I don't want to do that. Well, I really didn't consider that as something that could happen. Let me think about this, because this is bad? Yeah, that's the word. Bad. I don't like this. I should have done more thinking, because by sanding that, I've sanded through some of the lye. Well, I'm kind of committed now, unfortunately. Kind of have to sand this back and I have to reapply. Boy, I don't like the way this looks one bit. So overall, not terrible, but it's still very blotchy. As in, look at that. I mean, that looks like a disease. I don't wholly know what I'm gonna do about this. I knew that this was probably gonna happen, but I was hoping for some reason it just wouldn't happen. I'm gonna give it some time. That's what I'm gonna do. Give it some time, because this reaction continues to happen slowly over the course of, you know, hours. That is what's giving me hope. Boys, I come to you on this brand new day bearing tremendous news. There is a God. There is a higher power. Let me show you the proof. Here's the proof. Just as I told you it would be. Some of you might be thinking, look, that is just your desk. How is this proving there's a God? Well, there is a God, because it's not just my desk. It is my desk not looking that blotchy. That's right, my second layer of lye gravy evened out overnight, just as I hoped and prayed that it would be, and thus my prayers were answered. Now I get the luxury of doing my laundry while I wait for this to dry. I've never done this before, and I didn't even watch a tutorial on how to do it. No time like the present to figure it out. I have some bad news. The table finish feels very good. It does not look very good. It actually looks bad. There are all sorts of parts where it seems like the finish did not adhere well to the wood. Why? I don't really know. The only thing I can think of is that maybe the first time I applied my first coat of polyurethane is that the wood wasn't completely dry. Maybe there was some trapped moisture in there from the lye treatments. Maybe between coats of wet sanding I wasn't patient enough. But the problem is I gotta go back a lot of steps. I have to completely sand off the polyurethane, which is gonna be really hard to do. And if I'm sanding that deep, I'm gonna have to reapply the lye. So now I'm going pretty far back in the process. But I want this table to look good. But I also want to post this video. All right, so you just saw me finish up this table. I just did my final polishing of the table, and well, it was not worth it. I don't know if it's because I've been looking at this thing for too long. I've been working on this for over 2 months. And most of that has it been just sitting here, almost done, right in this spot in my basement. And I'm over it. It is so hard to do that lye process without it staining anything you don't want it to touch, because just like the cherry turns more red, so does the liquid. And it's just this red dye that permeates through everything. It's really annoying to deal with. And you're just going to mess it up. Don't even pretend like you're not gonna mess it up. You're gonna mess it up, so just accept it. And I did all that work, and ultimately I don't even like the way it looks that much. I was hoping for a deeper red than this, but I don't think I concentrated my lye enough in my final iteration of this. And the reality of the situation is cherry is a wood that loves to be blotchy. And you can help it a little bit if you're gonna stain or dye cherry with using like a pre-stain conditioner. But this isn't staining cherry, this isn't dyeing cherry. This is a chemical reaction on the cherry, and I did some tests, and using a pre-stain treatment doesn't even help that much. So what's the takeaway? Do I recommend this process? Not even close, not even a little bit. Not unless you hate yourself. If you hate yourself, that's fine, you should do this. I couldn't recommend anything more, but if you have any respect for yourself, I wouldn't bother. That's not to say I didn't learn anything. Sometimes you gotta build shit you don't like to know what you do like. So I learned I don't like this, but that being said, I hope you liked the video. I hope you subscribe if you made it this far, and I hope you leave a comment to let me know if you do or don't think this is ugly. And I'll see you again in a while.